Dave,
What?
you want some pizza?
Sure. Boy, it sure is taking him a while. We gotta get today's episode done. What if he's not coming back? What if he never comes back? I know he's doing all those other shows. What does he need me for? I don't even know what a slump lord is. He's also doing that anime show, and animes often have harems. Maybe he's trying to set up a harem of review shows. He could be doing it with actual big-time reviewers like the Ghost of Siskel and Ebert, but not Roper, though.
I don't like Roper.
Oh god, it could even have actual celebrities on it. Hollywood A-listers, like...
Dave!
Yeah, what? Yeah?
Slice.
Thank you. So, how is Daniel Day-Lewis?
Retiring?
To his cottage in Italy with you bitch!
David... Couch.
But I couch! Under protest.
Duly noted.
We watched a movie today.
Lovesick.
Lovesick, starring Matt LeBlanc,
Matt LeBlanc.
a.k.a. Joey.
And,
Ali...
I'll get the main character.
yeah, you get that. Okay, so... This movie... I'm waiting to...
Ali Larder.
Larder,
Sorry.
that's it.
Yeah, she's really big in Heroes and what was it?
She was the split personality woman.
Yeah, she's also in a lot of the Resident Evil movies. She was in Final Destination. Yeah.
All right, so
Legally Blonde.
also Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase, yes.
Few other milder names.
Oh.
They had a cast. For an independent.
Richard Rowell.
Yeah,
was in it.
the one dude from Office Space.
He was like really paranoid.
Yeah, like jumped to conclusion. All right, so
We'll get to that in a second.
yeah, this movie is a romance film.
It is. Can you call this even a romantic comedy? I think it's trying to be.
It was billed as such, so I will call it that.
Romantic comedy.
I will call it whatever it wants to be called. That's the culture of today.
Yes,
Anyway.
I am okay with any type of way you want to be calling yourself, but there is some objective realities here.
So the plot of this movie is that Matt LeBlanc is an elementary school principal who always seems to have a terrible time with love. In that every time that he falls in love with a girl, something fucking crazy happens. And he loses them.
Excuse me.
For instance, one girl was left him for a rodeo clown. Another girl was cheating with Blue Man Group behind her back. Another one became a prison whore.
Quite the whore.
Unfortunately, it turns out none of that happened. What actually happens is that Matt LeBlanc has a actual psychosis that, and I'm calling him Matt LeBlanc because I don't care about his character's name. I think it's Charlie.
It's Charlie.
I don't care.
Charlie Darby.
He's either going to be Matt LeBlanc or Joey.
He will never escape.
So, turns out that he actually has a psychosis where when he falls in love, he starts, like, actively sabotaging it. And, like...
Well, he becomes clinically insane.
He becomes super, like, jealous and like, oh, well, they're doing this and this and this and that.
Overly paranoid.
And starts, like, doing things that would, like, drive anybody away. So, and when they leave, then he comes up with some reason to be like, oh, well, this is why it happened, because they did this. So, he runs into this girl.
His leaps of logic are insane.
Oh, beautiful, though. What was the girl's name? What was Allie's name?
Hold on a sec. Molly.
Molly. There was a Beth somewhere in there. Molly is a woman he ran into at a bar, and he ended up kind of, falling for her, and it turns out that she wants to become a substitute teacher at the school that he's principal at, so they kind of get to talking for a while, and then he asks her out, and hey, everything's great. And then when he wakes up after their second date, she left a note saying she had to catch a flight to go see her sick grandmother. Well, who has to do that? When does that ever happen?
We also forgot to mention that Adam Rodriguez is in this movie. He's like Eric on CSI Miami.
Oh.
He's in Magic Mike.
He's a main character. He's like the narrator of the thing.
Criminal Minds.
I don't know him, so I left him out.
He seems nice.
Yeah, he's fine.
That's about it.
But so there was a note on the pillow. It's like, hey, I gotta go see my sick grandmother. And he's like, well, that doesn't just happen. So he tries to like check up on her a little bit, send like a fruit basket, but ends up sending like 1,000 cantaloupes.
No, he sends 1,000 cantaloupes on purpose.
On purpose, yeah.
Because he didn't realize that his friend of his was being sarcastic.
Yeah, when he was saying that stuff. So this repeats over and over again. The girl says something, does something, has something on her. She has a men's sweatshirt on her, and she's trying to figure out, well, who's that for? Her dad doesn't have it, so it can't be for him.
He's like checking like,
the tag.
Like while he's like, come on.
What the fuck? But, and it just keeps on happening until eventually it escalates to a point where she takes a trip out to Tuscany, out to Italy, and to see her grandmother. And he's getting all these little hints from like third parties that are like, oh, well, she's seeing Dr. Oz because something about the nephew heard something about a famous doctor with a hard to say name. Turns out to be a Finnish doctor.
Yeah.
But he literally follows them to Italy, and she is not immediately thrown off by that because she left a voicemail to him saying, "Hey, wish you were here," and she just thought like, "Oh, that's romantic," but then she says something about how she brought along, or she had a lacy lingerie.
Yeah.
And that set off his mind like, wait, but she was
why did you bring it to
If she was here with her grandmother, then why would she bring along lacy lingerie? And that doesn't make any sense, so I'm busting in! Goes in the grandmother's room, starts searching through her drawers, and she's like, what the fuck?
Put her in the corner.
Yeah, and she's like, and she's like, no, look, we're done. We're done.
We are done. Get the fuck out of here.
And so he's in a lull and all that, and he's like, you know what? Maybe I can just show her how bad it is. And so he gets all of his ex-girlfriends that he's ever imagined this stuff with, and they basically
dating back to elementary school,
pretty much. And they say like, here's what happened, and they listed off all these stories of like how he went completely psychotic and just started imagining these things. And then she was like, okay, I understand. You're really fucked up, and I get that, and I don't blame you for that. That's what it is. We're still not getting back together. And he's like, oh, damn it. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
And then she goes and talks to her grandma, and grandma's like, nah, get with him.
Jump the bones.
Bitch, I did that same shit. I was fucking crazy.
Yeah, I did some crazy shit. He just really likes you. All right.
And then she's like, all right, grandma, I'll fuck him.
Okay, and they got back together and kissed in front of everybody at the school assembly when the band was about to play.
I'm skipping over a lot of the middle ground because half of this, like,
it's just cringy dates.
Well, okay, I feel like that's where we need to start, is that this movie has two segments. A, he's doing something sweet for the girl, and B, he thinks he has a reason to be paranoid.
I think there's really three segments, honestly.
Okay.
There's those two, definitely, and then the third one is just watching the fallout of the miscommunication.
Yes.
Because, like, you have, like, the crazy-ass conspiracy scheming that he's doing where he has these gigantic, boundless
He has a
jumps of
literal
objects.
giant folder of, like, Mr. Oz stuff based off of famous doctor,
like he's like
hard to say,
trying to piece like things together and just like, and then like, all right, getting a little getting a little ahead of myself here, but it's just the those three major segments is kind of it rolls continuously for the most part, and so we know what kind of scene is about to happen just by the way the first shot is. Like the moment he's like. And I was like, so I'm like, okay, here we go. He's gonna fuck something up.
The part where he first thinks that it's Dr. Oz, they're out at dinner, and his plan to see if he's just saying Mammoth, which is Dr. Oz's first name, and it's like, and he just keeps going, and it's like, dude, what in the fuck is wrong with you?
Like, well, we know.
Yeah, we know, but even then.
And this is where we already begin to have the major problems with it. Now, I said this to David when we were watching the film, is that the way that it was going, the entire... Whether or not it was a mishmash of different tones and different... and what's the word?
Themes?
Themes, yeah. Just like different tones and themes... Either it's a mishmash of that doesn't quite work, or it's genius. it's really in the former category because the way that it ended, I told him, I was like, the entirely depends on how the movie ends. And the way that it ended is that everything ended up getting solved and wrapped up at the end.
It all worked out.
When the entirety of the movie, we are being constantly told and shown the full extent of this guy, not full extent, the mounting extent of his psychosis, to a point in which it was getting to, like, this is full-on stalker levels here.
Oh, yeah.
The music, though, and we were constantly saying this back and forth, is that it was always kind of trying to play for the whimsy, and because of the way it ends, that makes sense, but the problem is...
You never want to actually really hate Matt LeBlanc's character. At least the movie doesn't want you to hate Matt LeBlanc's character. He's always just like, no, you can see how he would believe this, and because they opened up the movie with saying, hey, this is my friend, he's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It leads you down the road where it's like, okay, well, how much can we really blame him? So,
and that's the thing, though. It's kind of like, this is the... what was it? His character is supposed to fall into the category like the lovable misfit.
Yeah.
But the problem is with this character is that I don't find him redeeming enough to be able to fill those shoes.
No.
That's me personally. I mean, like, I can understand why some people would think that, okay, I feel bad because he just can't do it. But honestly, I think the problem I have the most with this particular gimmick with this arc, because the arc is very traditional romantic comedy arc, you know? Guy, girl meet each other, it goes great, he does something that fucks it up, they fall out, and then they get back together at the end. Easy. Nicholas Sparks 101. But the thing is with his character, he is told, like flat out told, by an ex-girlfriend who wrote a thesis on the fact that he was insane.
The rodeo clown one, by the way.
Yeah.
Where he imagined the rodeo clown.
And the horse.
Yes.
And it's like, she gives him, like, actually it's not even a thesis, it's a dissertation. It's like a PhD dissertation. It's like this thick. These dissertations are not even that long. That's like a book.
It's all on him.
Yeah, it's all on him and all on his crazy ass reactions to his girlfriends. He has given literally the dictionary definition, and his friend is saying, yes, you are straight up psychotic. He makes absolutely no efforts whatsoever to correct that, except for talking to that guidance counselor once, which, okay, I get the funny part of the scene, but none of the rest of the movie is him trying to mitigate or deal with any of these aspects of his condition.
I feel like the best signifier of that is the scene where he's told that. He is told... Okay, so they go through the whole first part where it's like, hey, flying on a trip to see my grandmother, whatever.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to... First off, he prints out the note on, like, overhead...
Yeah, we saw that.
Paper.
He did an overhead overlay.
Yeah,
like,
just so they could look at it on the screen, and they're just like, oh, that's not a heart in front of her name, that's a chef's hat.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're trying to figure out whether...
A boxing glove?
Whether or not she actually, like, just ditched him, or, like, wanted to actually stay in touch. And then they moved on to the plan of find out if she's actually at the grandmother's place by sending the grandmother a whole box of fruit, and then she'll have to call to say, like, thank you. And then he sends 1,000 cantaloupes because he can't tell sarcasm apart.
Yeah.
And then as soon as she never calls back, she's just like, she was lying. That's it. I sent her a message and I said, you know what? We're done. I'm not going to be the other guy for you, whoever the hell you're seeing. And then he brings along the ex-girlfriend. The ex-girlfriend's like, yo, you're fucking crazy.
And then...
Well, hold on. That's what I want to say.
Okay.
And then she shows back up.
Hey, where's my phone?
Oh, you left it here?
Yeah.
Oh, well, my buddy got thrown out by his wife, so I need to just be with him. You can wait outside, though. I'll get your phone real quick. We then see, and this is the part that really sends it for me, we then see what he actually sent to her when he said that he's not going to be the other guy. He called her dozens, if not hundreds of times.
I wouldn't necessarily that.
He kept scrolling.
I kept scrolling, but the thing is, at the same time, though, I wouldn't say hundreds and whatnot. I would say at least between 50 to 100.
The fact that the plural is what we're arguing on tells you exactly how many.
It is tens of times.
He's just over and over.
And he's just like scrolling, and then he's like, well, there's two from her mom.
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing where it's like, okay, even if you have this issue where you're paranoid and you're seeing things that aren't actually there, that behavior is not paranoid. That is the stalker levels of fucking crazy.
It is, and the only reason that she didn't leave him right then and there is because she didn't have the phone.
And by the time he handed it back, he deleted off all that stuff. He
got into a smartphone.
I'm sure. Whatever. 2014 was a different time, Matthew. We didn't all have to fingerprint lock our phone.
It wasn't fingerprint locks. It's still just the passcode. There were still passcodes 4 years ago.
All right, so...
All right, well, I just want to get into the acting, really.
Yeah, no, that's where I want to go.
Because the acting, honestly, is not bad. I actually think that the cast, for the information that they're given, and we're going to get more... I'm saving the director and all that kind of stuff for the end.
Oh, right, I forgot about that.
Because that's a big point with me, personally. But the acting in this, I find to be... let's just go with Matt off the bat. It's just that he plays the performance very, to the T. I believe it. I definitely believe it.
Mm-hmm. Without having to do any, inside narration of his head of, saying what he's going through and stuff like that, I managed to understand entirely, the logic that he's leading and stuff. I won't agree with it, but I understand it. I see, okay, I can see how he got from A to B to C, and in his sick, demented fucking mind, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it was a good performance on his part in being able to convey that, I would say. Because being able to convey...
is conveyance. Conveyance is important.
Being able to convey crazy in just the general sense is fairly simple for any sort of mid-trained actor.
It depends on what kind of crazy.
But that's just it. He has to play a very low-key crazy to the point where nobody in his life would have suspected he was crazy.
It's only when he's in love.
Yes.
And honestly, actually, from what I know off the cuff before even going into this movie is that some of the ideas that they express about people because of the way that their brains are wired, the way that their brains are wired, this type of reaction is completely legitimate. Mm-hmm. How many times have you been in a relationship where the thought that goes through your head constantly is this motherfucker is crazy?
I know for a fair share of my relationships, I was that guy.
I think it depends on the type of relationship, and you have these types of extreme volatile reactions, and I can understand it. I can understand it from both sides of this debate here, and that's another thing that goes back. I can't really say much about the acting because it was decent. I think the themes I have a problem with the most here. I can't
point out a single actor that really failed. Everybody was good.
Even the child actors were fine.
I really liked Allie as Molly. She played a good sort of quirky girl at the beginning, just I'm in an 80s cover band sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But when it came time for her to get serious and be what are you doing? She played that serious. It wasn't hey, so what's going on?
You need to go.
No, it was
Now, to be fair, she should have said you need to go before that point.
No.
But still, we'll let that slide.
I think that's more or less from our perspective because we see just how crazy Matt is behind the scenes.
True.
From her perspective, Charlie was yes, he was very weird and clean with certain stuff, but each time he still had those sweet moments, he still had that sort of stuff. She didn't see all of it. So I feel in her mind, it wasn't that bad.
And that's another real major issue that I actually had with this is the fact that I'm not saying that she should have left him because he was nuts and all that kind of stuff. She should have left him because he was nuts and he was constantly doing this from what I'm guessing to be months. Alright, I'm no expert, but when it comes down to toxic relationships, regardless if the person loves you or not, sometimes the most toxic relationships are between two people who do indeed really love each other. But they're terrible for one another for whatever particular reason. And it kind of reminds me of, I'm forgetting the movie. Never mind. I'm not going to spend so much time on it. But it's that's the major issue that I see with this one is that no, I'm sorry that Molly's character should never have gone back to him. It's not necessarily the fact that the conditions there. It's the fact that he lied so extensively and also the fact though he's this is psychotic. it explains it. It doesn't excuse the action.
I think a big part of it...
It's like people when they're drunk and stuff like that. Like, it explains what they're doing. It doesn't excuse it. It doesn't relieve them from responsibility of the consequences.
I agree.
He should have gone to jail.
I agree. I don't think that Molly should have gotten back together in the end with him. I think that it would have been more powerful if they, stayed separate. It may be just friends.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been fine with the
because it seemed like all the ex-girlfriends were like, no, we understand. You have issues. We forgive you.
But also,
well, hold on.
I was just saying with Molly, is like the wound is fresh. Yeah. These guys have been years.
Well, the one thing that I really don't think that the filmmakers showed that I think would have helped their case a bit better is we didn't see much from just Molly's perspective.
There was a couple scenes, but
a couple scenes. For the most part, it was all just like we see how much Charlie wants Molly. We see just what he's willing to do, what he's willing to go through, just in order to keep her around, and he really wants to keep her around, but I never really got a feel for just how affectionate Molly was for Charlie, and it was especially muddled because we kept on, as the audience, having these thoughts planted of being like, oh, well, she's cheating on him with the concierge, or she's doing that. So from our perspective, it's the same as Charlie's perspective, in that she didn't want to be with him. She was always wanting to be with someone else. Yeah. So I feel like by the end, we don't actually have a good idea of her feelings towards him. It's much more of we have a good idea of what he believes her feelings towards him are.
Yeah.
And that makes it much harder to believe that she would ever go back to him at all, because from our perspective, it's always just been a disdain and trying to cheat on him.
Yeah. And also, I honestly never got the impression that Matt's character honestly is in love with Molly. I never got the impression of that.
I kind of got it during that first date, the Thailand thing.
That's the one time, but at the same time, that wasn't really love. That was just a very strong mutual attraction on a... Like, it's not just physical, it was like a emotionally and mentally compatible level.
I would say if you said it so that the love was at the peak right then, and then everything after that fact is where it started going downhill, then I would say that...
So I don't think it was really about him, like, I love you so much because I'm so crazy. I think it's like, I am so crazy, so thus I think I love you so much.
I agree with
that. Never got the impression that I'm doing everything that I'm doing because I love you so much. It's like, I want to keep you. Like, I got that feeling. It's like, this is... As terrible as this might sound, like, you are a trinket and you are mine.
I mean, that was the whole thing at the beginning of the movie, was him throwing away years and years of little trinkets that he had belonging to ex-girlfriends.
Yeah.
That was like the very first thing. Was him was like, nope, I'm starting fresh, I'm getting over. And it almost makes sense when you put it like that, and like having a trinket. He just gave away all of his trinkets.
Yeah.
It makes sense that he would want something to fill that void. Just something to have.
But he can't be like a regular human being and just get a dog.
Mind you, our characterization of him is far better. We are looking very deep into this.
Yeah, and also, this kind of goes back into now the filmmaker, the filmmakers behind the movie, because I don't want to spend too much more time on it. This was directed by, and I hope I pronounce his name right, Luke Matheny, or Luke Matheny.
One of the two.
Luke Matheny is the director of the 2010 short film God of Love, which is about Cupid. It also won the Academy Award for Best Live Action Short. I got an opportunity to see it at the 2010 Maryland Film Festival, and I really enjoyed it. It got all of the aspects and tropes of romance movies down really well, and also he's been kicking about on a bunch of television shows for the most part since then. He did some work on Marin. He also did work on Black Jesus. That was this year. But the only film he has done, feature film that he has done to this date, is Lovesick. And that was the first. He did one more short after God of Love, but at the same time, though, that was like his next major release after he won an Oscar. I'm sorry, dude, Lovesick. As much as I could see with what you were going with here, and there's a lot of different tropes that I actually kind of found it interesting that you were playing with, The problem is, though, I don't understand how you could go from such a really solid short as God of Love, and it had that drama and that quirkiness and that kind of dejected type of main character personality because you just can't seem to get what everybody else seems to have. Like, I get it. You're playing with almost exactly the same themes. And, was it the screenwriter for this was a guy named Dean Young, and he wrote for like King of the Hill, he wrote on Mad About You, he wrote a little bit for Community and stuff like that. So he should have also been able to get the tonal difference between what you were going for here. There was the style, and then the screenplay, and then the way that the actors perform these roles are all in constant conflict with one another.
Yeah.
There's not a generalized consensus. I don't feel and this is what the problem that we had throughout the entire movie, is the fact that we didn't know what kind of movie this was trying to be.
No.
And by the end, when we finally figured out what kind of movie it was trying to be, it wasn't that movie. So
It was a problem that they opened the movie by saying, my friend is a psychotic.
yeah.
And that set a lot of expectations in my mind, and yours as well, as to what kind of character that would be, therefore what kind of relationship this would be, therefore what kind of movie this would be.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, we went in and we were just slowly whittling away at our general ideas of what it could be. And we're like, okay, well, he's obviously not the eat your skin kind of psychotic.
No,
so
he's
let's
not
trim
Buffalo
that out.
Bill or
And then we
anything.
just kept trimming away until eventually it just came down to be like he's just super jealous, paranoid, and a bunch of other, like, just mental disorders. That's his level of psychotic.
I was waiting for this scene to go to like 1 hour photo
Yeah.
and for him to like start like trying to like start has like cutouts or a picture all over his walls.
You said when it came down to the fact that we were approaching the end of the movie and he did the flight to Italy.
Yeah.
You said that's it. That's as wacky and zany as it is.
Yeah.
And like I felt the same way. Is that it's like, yes,
Especially considering how much they built it up
yeah,
over the
like
course
this
of the
was
movie.
the biggest thing he was doing. And don't get me wrong, following someone halfway around the world just to prove that they're cheating is fucking crazy.
It is.
But
In the scheme of the movie,
not so much, because
No.
he's been doing weird shit the whole time. And if anything, the just because of the cringe amount from before with like the dinner with the parents and all that, where like he's trying to get proof that he has this sweatshirt so that like he knows that the sweatshirt doesn't have some other guy attached to it. So
Dad, sweatshirt worse in the closet.
yeah, so he's like, I'm feeling a bit hot. He's like, it's 83 degrees. It's like, yeah, I'm feeling a bit cold. It's 83 degrees. Yeah, I'm just, maybe we could get me something to warm me up. I was like, oh, I'll turn up to 87.
Sweatshirt.
It's like, I could use a sweatshirt. It's like, oh, I'll get you a sweater. Sweatshirt. It's like, dude.
I'll let you have my Snuggie. I want a sweatshirt.
Eventually, he's just like, I need to use the bathroom. And he goes through the dad's closet. And it's like, what? But all that stuff, everything was just a gut-wrenching cringe. Just like,
And I get completely that was one of the main reasons for those sequences.
Oh, yeah.
I get it. Like, it was effective. Like, that, again, the major problem I'm having with this is that the tonal shifts, and this is weird coming from a guy who likes anime, the tonal shifts, and I guess there's a sense of a suspension of disbelief to a certain degree. But the thing is, though, the tonal shifts came so abruptly, and they didn't really blend with one another, that I never really could find even footing about how I was supposed to feel for these characters. Yeah. So I was left to my own devices. And then through my own devices, I could not sympathize with any of these characters because, one, Matt's character, Charlie, he was really fucking insane to a degree, and also I've had previous relationships where I did not handle it well, and when we split up, and I did, I was in too much of an obsessive mindset, and that was bad. But at the same time, though, I did not go to the extents that this guy did, so I could, and also the reasons for him doing that was much less founded than anything that I feel I ever came up with. So the thing is, though, he had very little actual concrete evidence to do any of these things.
Yeah.
And he did things that, by all accounts, if you heard a friend of yours or somebody like that saying, like, this guy followed me to Tuscany to see if I was going to fucking cheat, like, that is a red flag the size of a car.
The police.
Yeah.
All right, so
that is a restraining order.
final thoughts?
Final thoughts for me, honestly, I did enjoy parts of this movie. This movie is not not all nearly the worst that we have done for the show. It's not even moderately bad, I don't think. I just think the problem is that it doesn't know what it wants to be. And as a result of that we don't really know how we're supposed to feel. There's too much, and actually conveyance is a good term again. The conveyance is really muddled, so I have no idea how I'm supposed to feel for these characters, and because of that, I don't connect with any of them. Especially with Molly's character, when she sees all this crazy ass shit is going on, and a friend of hers just saying to her, is like, oh, it's just because he really likes you. One, that character was poorly written, but two, at the same time though, no. You also get more than one opinion on that type of behavior too, because if you really think that this is what it's going to be, and this ends up being this way, no, I'm sorry. So otherwise, I give it kind of like a 3 out of 5, honestly. It's not horrible.
So for me, yeah, I mean, it started off weird just because of that psychotic thing. We had weird expectations going into it. But overall, it just kind of, I wouldn't even say formulaic. It just moseyed its way through, as best I could say.
Yeah, mosey's a good term.
Yeah, the moments of extreme cringe were the moments of extreme cringe, but then it just kind of, it didn't do any. It kept repeating the same thing like 3 times, and by the time that she finally wised up, I was like, hey, no, you're fucking crazy. That's the, like, last 20 minutes of the movie. We're like, okay, whatever, just go. So overall, I liked the acting. I liked everything, like, technical about it, but the themes and everything like that were just way too conflicting.
It didn't make us angry like Amber Alert, but it just made us just
But that is our opinions on Lovesick.
Lovesick.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
After our little review there, I realized that, much like the character in this movie, I may have made up some evidence about you and Mr. Daniel Day-Lewis, and I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for that, David. That means a lot. Thank you.
And if you need a shoulder to cry on, I'm sure you can have one this weekend when you go and visit Ashley Tisdale in her private villa.
What?
I saw the way you looked at the camera during Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure Review. You wanted that fucking slut, didn't you? Didn't you?
David, that was like years ago.
4.5. Who the fuck's counting?
David, I accept you.
You what?
I accept who and what you are.
And what am I?
You are fucking crazy. But that's okay. All of the nutty things you've done, are doing, and will do, I accept them. And I accept you.
So, even though I make up these baseless accusations, and I shout and I scream about them, and I have no intention of changing that anytime soon, you still want me?
Yes, David. Absolutely.
I'm sorry. I need someone with more self-esteem than that.
Made possible by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.